Well, good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast, and thank you for joining me today for folks' favorite Fandom Friday. Now, over the past few weeks, you've noticed I've been doing something a little different here in Series 7. I've been spending most of these Fandom Fridays chatting with other folks here in the Tolkien community who are at San Diego ComicCon and the Amazon events there, so that we can share our experiences with you. And since I want to catch everybody when their memories are fresh, most of my chats with folks have been happening in the first week of August. In fact, I think they're all done as of August 6th. So today's interview will actually release halfway into Season 2. Please keep that in mind in case our guest today has any predictions that end up way off base. Speaking of today's guest, I have to say, he's somebody I've been hoping to chat with for some time. His videos on Instagram are some of my absolute favorites, and I had a chance to face off against him a few months ago in a Tolkien trivia contest. I won't say how I fared. Fortunately, Amazon Prime Video saw his videos as well and invited him to attend San Diego Comic-Con last month, so I finally got a chance to meet him. In his words, he's a pretty simple guy. He fixes planes, writes music, and loves Tolkien. Folks, please welcome Airplane Facts with Max to today's Tolkien Times.
Hello.
It's good to have you with me, Max. Thanks, man.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Cool. Well, since you are new to any of my shows, I want to start with the question that I ask everybody who shows up on the PPP or the TTT. What was your first experience with Tolkien like? When was that? And what is it about Middle-earth that keeps you coming back?
Well, my first experience with Tolkien was because of my dad.
This is awesome.
Yeah, like so many others.
Yeah.
But he didn't read me the books.
Uh-huh.
He still has never read the books. I told him to change that.
Wow.
He took us to see the movies.
Okay.
When they first came out.
Yeah.
And I remember I had no idea what Lord of the Rings was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like everything that I ever wanted to see. And so in the theater, I was freaking out, so excited. I had to go to the bathroom like 7 times, missed the whole, because I was just like, this is everything that I've ever wanted to see in a movie. And so, after that, I was like, man, I hope they make more. And he's like, you're in luck. There's going to be 2 more. And I nearly passed away from excitement. I thought Gandalf was dead.
Oh,
like I was like, he's never. And then when he came back in 2 Towers, I was like, what?
I'm glad he didn't spoil that for you, if he knew. Since
I don't even know if he knew, honestly.
That's a good point. I just realized that when he said he never read the books, he might not have known. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers, folks.
And so, sorry. And so, well, he comes back as Saruman. He should have been. So maybe it's not Gandalf,
That's right.
But anyways, so I started with that. And then what was the second part of the question? What keeps me coming back to Middle-earth?
Back to Middle-earth. I mean, for some people, it's different things. Everything from community to, hobbits to, more lore, whatever it might be for you.
For me, it's the lore, definitely. When I got older, I realized that there's so many more deep connections within the Tolkien universe. And when I, later on, when I finally read the books, I was like, what's Gondolin?
Oh,
why? Like my friend was like, I think Gandalf's like an angel or something. I was like, what is he talking about? And then as I started diving deeper, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Everything is connected and interwoven, and it's just so deep and rich. And nobody compares to the world Tolkien created at all. So that's what kept me coming back and keeps me coming back constantly.
Yeah, because there's always something new to discover. Some other new connection or deep thing. You're like, wait a minute. I mean, you finish the Lord of the Rings, and then you read the appendices. Then you read the appendices, and you think there's more. And you read Unfinished Tales, and then you read the Silmarillion, and then
and it's
Middle-earth. Your mind is blown. Yeah,
you're just like, how did this guy come up with all this?
While he was a professor of Anglo-Saxon at a university. I mean,
right. It's just so that's what keeps me coming back for sure.
I hear you on that for sure. Well, let's pretend that there are some folks out there who have never heard of your channel. I doubt it, that of my viewers, right? I doubt that's the case, but just in case, how would you describe your show to people who've never seen it?
Yeah, this is always kind of a awkward thing to try to explain. So it's called Airplane Facts with Max, and I'm an aircraft mechanic.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I compare and contrast the differences between commercial aircraft and the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. Which sometimes people are like,
Balrogs don't have wings. Yeah.
So they say.
Oh no, are you on Team Wings?
I'm on team and they look cool.
That's true. No, team and totally skipping ahead, but Rings of Power, the nice wings of shadow, the way they ought to look, they looked
That is
fantastic.
they're walking the middle ground there. They're
It's a
sitting on the
perfect middle
fence.
ground.
They're
I
not
agree.
committing to either way.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
love it.
they do look good though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I compare airplanes to Lord of the Rings. Sometimes somebody one time asked me like, "Are there a lot of similarities?" I was like, "Not really at all. Nothing in common."
I think that's what I like about your show. The airplane facts have nothing to do, but you tie it together in such a funny, dry humor sort of way. It's right up my alley. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I do. I just compare parts of airplanes to the Lord of the Rings. And
I absolutely love it. Folks, you will
somehow it
enjoy the
works.
heck out of this, and we're going to make sure you know all about it before the show's done. What was the inspiration behind starting this really unique channel? And then part two of that is, since these are, as far as I can tell, single take shorts, how much research and prep do you put into these episodes? What's your like pre-production and production process? But I guess start with your inspiration first.
Well, that's not a very happy story, but what happened was, in 2022, in September 2022, my wife passed away.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a rough time for me. And
yeah.
I was at work, and one day I was like, a couple months later, I posted on my Instagram story where I was like, it wasn't about airplane. It wasn't about Lord of the Rings. I just said, the airplane's tires are different than tires on your car because they're on an airplane. And my friends were like, "That's really funny." And I was like, "Really? Okay." So I posted that to TikTok. And then on TikTok, it just kind of popped off. And I kind of made a lot of silly videos like that for a while.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, because it was September, I was watching Rings of Power, and it was one of the only things that I like looked forward to.
Yeah.
Every week I was like, "Oh, Rings of Power is coming out." Like, at least Tolkien's there. I love Tolkien. And then that made me want to reread the books a few months later. And I started reading the books, and I was like, I wonder, like 6 months later, I was like, I wonder if I could make one of my videos about Tolkien.
Huh.
And I was like, how would I talk about Lord of the Rings and an airplane? You know? And then I was looking at the engine, and I saw the fan blades, and I was like, fan blade, blade of Andoril. You know?
The most random
like,
connection
okay.
that you can make, but yeah.
So I was like, well, these blades are different than the Sword of Andoril because they weren't forged by the Dwarven smith Telkar in the first age, and then later carried by the heirs of Isildur until eventually the shards were reforged in Rivendell anew into Andoril, the Flame of the West, that Aragorn would carry into battle during the Wars of the Ring at the end of the Third Age of Middle-earth, or something like that.
Wow. Just blowing me away with the one take stuff. That just
and so that's and then people were like, I love this. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I could talk about airplanes and the Lord of the Rings. Those are my two favorite things. I was like, how would I?
All day.
But I was like, I don't know if I could do that again. And so I kept making silly videos that weren't Lord of the Rings. And then I was like, and then I did one on escape rafts versus the rafts, or the rafts that they get gifted to sail down the Anduin from the Galadriel. And I was like, okay, I think I can keep doing the Tolkien stuff. And then eventually I just started looking at airplanes, and I was like, airplanes, like I look at the airplane, I'm like, what can I compare this to in Lord of the Rings? So like the beacon lights, like the flashing red beacons of
the beacons.
Yeah, see, you get it. Yeah, see, you're like, you see a part on the airplane, you're like,
yeah,
it's easy. That's like Lord of the Rings.
That is so fantastic.
That's kind of the story of how this whole thing started, and it was really unexpected. I wasn't trying to like make a social media presence.
No.
But I love talking about Tolkien,
right? And
I love talking about airplanes. And Tolkien for me has always been like a very safe. It's like you can always feel good when you're reading a Tolkien book. You know, it lets you see the good in the world. At least that's my takeaway from it.
Reminds me, what you're saying reminds me a lot of what we read in on fairy stories and what Tolkien says fantasy should be, right? Recovery, escape, and consolation.
Yeah. And that's what it has always been for me. Like, even when I was younger and I was into it, I was like, angsty teenage years, you're going through stuff or whatever. And you're like, I'm putting on the movies or I'm reading the book. And it's like,
it's a
every time
read,
you're like,
it's a comfort.
It
watch.
is.
It is 100%.
And not only that, it's like an inspiring one too.
Yeah.
It's like the story is inspiring, and then it's also like academically, I don't know if academic is the right word,
Yeah.
but like it's
Oh, it is.
mentally
It's
stimulating because there's so much to
yeah,
learn about it.
absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
I've also found that people love talking about Tolkien. They love learning about Tolkien. So
Yeah.
when like my friends are like, "Hey man," like they ask me questions. They're like, "What's
Yeah.
up with Gandalf?" And I'm like, "How much time do
Yeah.
you have?"
Seriously, don't ask me. People, everybody who knows me has learned that lesson.
Right. I'm like,
Yeah.
"You want to hear about the File of Galadriel?" I'm like, "Well, we got to go back to the lamps."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
basically.
We got to go all the way back to the lamps, and then to the
I
trees, and then to the sea.
I can't just start
No,
with the
it's light
Star of Eärendil. Like,
What's
well, why?
Eärendil?
Exactly.
What's an Eärendil? Yeah.
And then I get ADD brained halfway through, and I start talking about Elros and the line of the Númenóreans, and I'm like, oh, where were we
It's
talking
impossible
about?
not to digress with Tolkien, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
And it's also
fantastic.
connected.
That is good stuff. All right, Max, before we move on to Comic-Con and Rings of Power, tell me a little bit. You just gave us an example of that amazing one-take stuff. How does that work? What kind of prep goes into that? Because you are doing these in just a single take, right?
Yeah. They're usually about 45 to 90 seconds.
Okay.
So and the single take thing's easier for me because I'm lazy. I'm not gonna edit. I'm bad at video editing.
That's why I have an editor. Yeah.
Right. And so there's not a lot of prep really. I just kind of look at the airplane and then I think like I did a video once on the thrust reverser control valve, and which activates the thrust reversers on the engine. And I was like, well, they had to reverse their course when they were passing over the mountain of Caradhras.
Oh my goodness.
To go back into Holland.
Okay.
So I just kind of like, and then I just kind of think about it for a while and what I want to say, and I kind of come up with like a script in my head, really,
so
and like how I want it to go.
Script down. This isn't like memorizing a series of bullet points.
I just think about it. I just think about it for a while, and then like I can kind of like sometimes there. I'm not going to say there's never. Sometimes I've made some notes on my phone.
Yeah.
When I come up with a good idea, because sometimes I'll think of a good idea and I'll be like, I'll remember that, and then I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so sometimes I'll write out like an idea on my like a notepad on my phone. I'll be like, first reverser, Mountain Caradhras, go back into Holland,
right,
up to the gates of Moria. Through the long dark.
Yeah,
and then I do like it usually takes me like five tries, 5, 6.
Okay.
And
I appreciate that honesty because I got to say, it looks like you just
no. I never just
time.
Never just one take because I'll always mumble, and usually it's over something stupid. Like it's sometimes it's the intro where I'll be like, I just kind of like have a brain freeze, really, and I don't. And then I watch it. I'm like, I don't want a brain freeze. No, it usually like it's a one take video, but it's
multiple attempts.
It's the result of multiple attempts at the one take. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie and say that I could just do it off the cuff every time. Yeah, no.
All right.
That would be crazy,
wouldn't it? Just off the cuff, go and you're done. Brilliance put out the door every time. Yeah.
And I also do it during my lunch breaks at work, so I only have like a couple minutes to get it done because like I gotta eat. And then I like to do it on lunch break because I don't want anybody else in the video.
It makes sense.
Because like they might not want to be on a video, and also I don't think the company would like it if I was doing it not on lunch break.
That's true.
And if people were watching me do it, I'd get self-conscious. I couldn't. I couldn't.
Oh, I know
I can't just like whip out the phone and make a video like
I could
in the middle of the
that.
hangar.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I kept saying to myself I would do these interviews while I was at Comic-Con with y'all. I just couldn't do it because there was never any like quiet place where I could do one-on-one, and I don't want to do this in front of people. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not one of those, like, I don't have like the content brain where I can like just pull out my phone and make a TikTok.
No, I've got to do everything in advance. I can't.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
No disrespect to people that can.
No, it's amazing to people who
I had a lot of fun.
I
did a few videos with Don Marshall, and we were like just so vibing out, having fun. And I was like, this is fun. I wish I could do it.
He turns on that character and he's just going. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Fantastic.
So there's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's my prep.
That's
I just
awesome.
kind of think
I love
about
that,
it.
Max.
Sometimes I do have to look up like the Nirnaeth Arnoediad or something like pull up the
deep dives. Yeah.
I do keep a copy of the trilogy and the Silmarillion in my toolbox though.
Oh, that's so cool. As you should, as everybody should at work. You should keep a copy.
As everybody should. You should always. Yeah.
Well, it is time to get into our experiences at San Diego ComicCon. What was or were your highlight or highlights from the Thursday night or Hall H events?
Man, it feels like such a
It
whirlwind
was,
thinking
wasn't
back
it?
on all of it. I've never done anything like that
Yeah.
before. That was my first convention experience, really, and like it was
Pretty
so much fun.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it was. I think one of my favorite moments was Hall H was cool. I've always wanted to go to a Hall H presentation. Never
Yeah.
seen that before. That was awesome.
Pretty
Watching Bear
spectacular.
McCreary come out and start the drums and stuff was awesome. And then the night before, it was Thursday night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thursday night event. That was really fun. Meeting the cast and talking to them, and kind of like, you know, meeting. It was Benjamin Walker, talking to him,
Yeah.
who plays Gil-galad. He was great, and he was like pretty familiar with my stuff, and he came over to introduce
so
himself to
cool.
me, and I was like, I didn't know he knew. I didn't recognize him at first, so he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey man, I just want to say I'm a big fan." I was like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, you crap,
oh,
you're Gil-galad,
you're
High King of the
yeah.
Noldor."
Didn't recognize you without the long hair.
Yeah, and like, you know, I'm really bad with actors and actresses. Like, if they're not
Yeah.
in their regalia with the wig and stuff, I'm like, no, you're just
You're
you're
just a
just like a
dude. Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you look like. I guess I have object permanence issues where I'm like, if you're not, you're supposed to have long black hair and
Right.
pointy ears. Like, what's up with? I thought you were Gil-galad.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it was really cool talking to him. I told him I was going to
So
steal
cool.
Aglos for him.
Yeah.
I didn't, but I thought about it.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, just meeting the cast and talking out and hanging out with the friends in the Tolkien community and stuff that I talked to online, and finally meeting everybody in person. Like, the whole thing was just so much fun.
It was.
And we spent, you know, it was all weekend just talking about nothing but Tolkien, which is like, that's like my dream come true, with people that know more about Tolkien than I do, because I'm not like a deep lore expert compared to most.
You know your stuff, though. I've faced off against you in trivia, so I can
I know some of it, but there's like, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a lore master. I would just consider myself a big fan.
Yeah.
And just talking about Tolkien the whole time was just great.
That is awesome. Was there anything that you learned at either event that has made you more excited for the launch of season 2 of The Rings of Power?
Honestly, just like the whole event in and of itself, and like seeing the set pieces and everything got me pretty excited. I think that the pacing is going to be a little bit faster, which I'm excited about. You know, with the trailer, seeing what is most likely, obviously, the fall of Eregion is going to be, I think, really cool.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to that. I know I'm personally excited to see Barrow Whites.
Yes.
I know, like second age Barrow White, whatever, it doesn't matter. What's important is that it's a Barrow White,
right?
And I want to see it.
Yeah. They do look pretty fantastic, pretty terrifying.
They do look really cool. And honestly, like I thought the trailer was really cool, but I really liked the behind the scenes stuff they showed at Hall H, and they're on YouTube now and stuff. Yeah, like watching the making of it and everything. That was like, it was really cool. It was really inspiring. And, and that was like, I was like, this is really neat.
So whites are the thing you're looking forward to. Any wild predictions for season 2?
Not really. I would say hopes.
Okay.
I personally want the stranger to be not Gandalf. I want him to be a blue wizard of some type. Some people have said Saruman, because I guess Saruman ventured to Rune. I don't think they can use the term blue wizard. I think that's not in the appendices.
They can always ask. You know,
they can always ask.
Yeah, I remember talking with Patrick, and I said, "Did you get the rights to use the name Anatar?" And he said, "Yes." And it was funny because I asked him, "So what's the mechanics behind getting these extra licensing requests?" He goes, "Oh, we just ask."
Well, we just asked, can we use Anatar?
Right. Can they use Anatar? And he said, we just don't ask for very much, because they don't want to get to the point where the estate says no, right? So they only want to ask for the things that are critical. So they got Armenelos last year for naming the city of Numenor, and then this year Anatar. Who knows what else? Maybe they will get Alatar and Palando. Who knows?
And even if they just, you know, it was Saruman became Saruman of many colors, he could be a wizard of different colors.
Saruman... the brick red.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do hope that it's one of the blues, one of the blue wizards going to Rune. I think that'd be cool. And then I'm really, really curious to see how they pull Tom Bombadil off on screen.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in it. And I just I love Tom Bombadil. and I've always been curious to see how he would translate to a screen adaptation.
It will be a challenge, but I'm excited.
It
if
will
anybody
be.
can pull it off, Rory Kinnear will be able to.
You think so? I'm not familiar with Rory Kinnear's
Yeah,
work,
I
so
mean,
I don't know.
he's quite, to me at least, I'm impressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody can pull it off. It's going to be him. But
All right, that's
yeah,
good to know.
we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
have
see.
faith in it. I do. I think it's.
Yeah,
I have high hopes for the season. I think it's going to be really
I
cool.
do
I
too.
liked season 1. I've watched it. I've actually watched it probably 5 times through.
Yeah,
Like quite
I
a
just
bit.
finished a second watch through because I didn't like it as much the first time. I gave it a C minus. I think in hindsight, I'd probably give it a C plus. But yeah, I have high hopes. I'm much more optimistic. I feel like, okay, season 2, they've got a shot. So I'm with you on that.
I think the momentum is there, and like
Yes.
some of the bigger events are going to happen. And I realized that like it's got to be hard making a show that condenses so much of Second Age lore into a palatable amount of time. You got to kind of squeeze that timeline. Otherwise, it's just going to be time jump, confusing. Go through 9 different casts of men because they're all dying because of the gift of Iluvatar. What a great gift!
How are you going
what
to
a great
that on a television show, right?
Right. What a great gift, Eru. Appreciate it.
Thanks for nothing. All right. Well, Max, if folks want to follow you on social media, please, and they better, where can they find you?
Just at Airplane Facts with Max. I'm on TikTok, Instagram. I have a YouTube channel I never use.
Don't we all at some point? I mean, I know I'm using mine, but isn't that true? Yeah.
Those are the 3.
Right. Cool.
If there anything else that says Airplane Facts with Max, it's fake and not me. There's some on Facebook, and those are not me.
So LinkedIn Airplane Facts with Max is going to not be you.
No, it is not. I deleted my LinkedIn. Also, you can look up I have music on Spotify, which is under the name Max Comer.
Oh,
that's my
all right.
Comer.
Excellent. Well, folks, multi-talented here. Please take a listen.
Not Tolkien related.
No, that's okay.
No.
All right. Well, Max, thank you again for joining me today. It was a real pleasure to meet you at San Diego ComicCon back in July.
Man.
Yeah. And,
again, thank you for the Prancing Pony podcast. It's the only reason I understood the Silmarillion the first time.
Thank you.
Shout out to that.
That means a lot. I appreciate
I don't know why anybody would be watching this channel and not having listened to the Prancing Pony podcast. But if you haven't listened to the Prancing Pony podcast, listen to it. It's great.
Thank you, man. Well, I do sure hope to see you, Max, before Rings of Power Season 3 comes out in another couple of years.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope so.
All right. Well, folks, that is it for today's Fandom Friday. But come back next Friday to meet another of your fellow Tolkien fans and maybe even learn what niches of the community you might be interested in exploring. And if you're interested in joining me here for a future Fandom Friday, let me know by emailing barnabas@theprancingponypodcast.com. And please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, and bonus weekly episodes and more. Join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up this week with Second Age Saturday. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill by now. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.